And on Two Wheels this week, the moment we've all been waiting for, Wayne gets to ride a real motorbike. And Jeff and I take a brief look at the history behind Moto Guzzi. Wayne has some ideas for souping up your 50cc scooter. But first, I take a look through a police laser gun.
Now this is a sight we're all familiar with, a policeman stood by the roadside like that, pointing a gun at you, or a radar or a laser or whatever it's called, I'm not so sure. And Chris and his colleague Gary here have got, what is it this? Is this a laser it says on there?
Yep, Pro Laser speed detection device. So the old handheld radars used to have a really wide beam.
Yeah.
And you get interference from big wagons and slow moving vehicles, etc. And a road like this, where you've got this dual carriageway effect, 40 limit, invariably your vehicles that are speeding will be in the offside lane. But the old radar would struggle to pick them up.
Right.
And it was too close to actually jump out and try and stop them by the time you pick them up. The laser, however, for instance, on this view here, we've got probably about 1,500 feet view. The beam will have spread no more than 3 inches.
Really, it's that accurate?
That accurate. You can actually pick up cyclists and pedestrians with this, yeah.
Speeding pedestrians?
Oh yes, well, probably not speeding, but yeah, you can pick pedestrians up.
Okay, so we're in what, 40 mile an hour limit here?
Yep.
So do you have there must be a guideline somewhere that tells you
the guidelines
at what point you're going to book somebody?
We could start prosecuting or issuing tickets at about 47 miles per hour.
Right.
Okay, but because we are in road traffic department, we've got a certain amount of discretion as to how fast a vehicle will be before we would actually deal with it by way of process. So you'd look at a day like this, well, it's nice and fine, visibility is good, the road surface is dry, the traffic flow is not too heavy. So we could say, well, okay, there's not too much danger at this moment in time. We could perhaps raise the stakes a little bit and maybe not start issuing tickets to maybe 50 miles an hour, something like that. Obviously, if we start getting the weather coming in and we get a wet road surface, we get rush hour traffic, then we'll start looking at...
It comes down, obviously, that speed,
leeway down a little bit.
So what does that do? I mean, in a nutshell, can you tell me in a nutshell how it works? What does it do? Send a beam and measure how quick
it just shoots out, a non-aggressive laser beam, if you like, not one that would be, you'd use for cutting. Right. Okay, that would be a bit dodgy.
That would be a bit dodgy.
Sends it out, it bounces off the car, comes back, the device measures the speed it comes back, and it shows up. And if you look around here, it actually shows you the speed. And it shows a plus or minus, so there's no arguments to say, well, it was the vehicle going the other way. If it's going the other way, it would say minus. Right. So get the plus, the speed, and then this is the distance in feet on this side here. Right,
so if that said minus if it was going away, that means you can do people for speeding, if you like, going in either direction?
Yeah, it'll be just as accurate.
Really?
And if Gary fires down there, lock on a vehicle away down to show you how far down that is actually
it'll tell you how far away the vehicle is and how fast it's going, and it's exactly right.
So what we're trying to do is, what happens is we see a vehicle travelling towards us and we form an opinion of how fast that vehicle's going. So we're actually stopping a vehicle on our opinion of that vehicle's speed. Right. And because we're in road traffic, we're allowed to give evidence of expert opinion because we're considered experts when it comes to speed, being traffic officers.
Of course, yeah.
So we see the vehicle and say, yeah, I think that vehicle's doing about 50 miles an hour. We then check it with the speed gun. So the speed gun is actually our corroboration for the offence.
Right.
So we lock on, let it run for a couple of seconds just to make sure the speed is either increasing, decreasing or steady. Then we lock it on for the speed recorder.
So what do? You press a button on that and it sort of goes, got you, does it, or something like that?
Yeah, you press the trigger and it records whatever speed that vehicle's doing. So as long as you've got the trigger depressed, it keeps showing the speed, whether it's decreasing or increasing, and you'll see the distance.
The distance is changing as the vehicle's coming towards us.
When you're satisfied you've got the speed you want, release the trigger and it locks the reading out on the heads-up display there.
How do you know which car it is, though? I mean, that's...
Well, there's a sighting reticle in the heads-up display there. There's a little red sighting reticle. Right. You get that square on your vehicle and it's not checking anything because the beam is so small, it can't be checking anything else.
But does it take a picture of the vehicle or something, or do you have to go and chase it?
Not this one. You can link it in, lays into a photographing device.
What I mean is, if this van coming up the road now, if he's doing 60 mile an hour near, you're going to say, right, click 60 mile an hour, bang, we'll have you for that. How does he get his ticket? I mean, do you have to write his number down?
No, we stop him now.
You have to go and stop him now?
Oh, which is the beauty of this here, because it goes so far down the road, we can have the vehicle checked and locked on at maybe 600, 700 feet away, which gives us plenty of time to walk out and stop the vehicle safely to pull them in.
So what you're saying is, by the time you've seen that laser gun, if you've been speeding, it's probably too late?
Yeah.
Oh dear. Right, Chris, can I have a go at this?
If you can convince Gary to get out of it, yeah.
Gary, come on,
Go on,
round the way.
Gazza, move over.
Move over, he's on his sergeant. It's all right. Right, what do we do here, Chris?
Right, if you look in the heads-up display just here.
It's like a shooting game on a computer.
Little recticle.
I can see it.
Okay. Aim the gun way down the road. It's no good doing it close to.
Right.
So look beyond these vehicles coming toward you. You can see the green building down there.
Yeah.
That's where the traffic signals are.
I can see them, right, okay.
So let these vehicles clear out the way.
Yeah.
And then aim down there.
It's flashing this, is that right?
That's right, it's just locked on from the previous check. Okay.
Okay.
Now the stuff's coming towards you now. So you press the trigger.
Press the trigger.
Yeah, just keep it on, keep it locked down. Keep it locked down.
I've locked it.
Keep your trigger on.
I've got the trigger on.
All right, now keep it aimed. You've got to aim it at a vehicle though. So keep the reticle on the vehicle.
That truck down there.
All right, and you'll see the speed changing, you'll see the distance changing.
Yeah, he's doing 24 mile an hour, 25 mile an hour.
And we just pulled out to
29,
that side
30,
road.
he's speeding up, watch him. He's going for it.
Right, there, nice and steady. You let go of the trigger,
Let go.
and it locks on.
Locks on.
Plus 34, 285 feet. So to get rid of that, just click the trigger once.
Yeah.
That clears it off, and you can start again. Now we've got a nice clear field now.
It's a piece of cake, this. It's easy, isn't it?
Yep. Just with this, it's so accurate.
Right, okay.
So you wait for the next batch of cars coming through the lights.
Come on then.
You're ready for it, yeah?
I like
There they
it.
come
Here
now.
he
Look, so
comes
if you get
now.
the reticle on that,
So if we get him on there.
depress the trigger and keep it depressed. And I see it's recording at nearly 1400 feet.
Yeah.
Speed's 33. Building up very, very slowly. They're going steady by. They can see us all the way down here with these
They
yellow
can't miss
shirts
us, can
on.
they, really, with this lot on?
They do. We've had them down here at 75 miles an hour, believe it or not.
38.
Stood in this exactly same place.
38, 34, he's slowing down. 32. He's seen us. He's slowing down. Right, we'll let him go, that one. Hang on,
Okay.
here's one.
Here's another one coming, look.
Right, I'm going to get one of these.
Offside lane now, he's going fairly quickly. Look,
gonna-
he's building speed up. Coming towards you, get the offside lane.
There, we got him.
43.
43, great, got him. Right, done it. Get him booked.
We'll remember this next time you're stopped, eh? 43 to 40.
Now I want you to come over here with me and I want to show you that I've got a big one. Bike, that is. Look at that, you don't get much bigger than this, the Honda Varadero. Well, actually, those of you who are very astute will have probably already noticed that it's not the Varadero that is currently in existence. That one is 1000cc. This is a brand new model and it's a bit smaller. How small, you might ask? Well, there's a few people who have seen me riding it have suggested it's around 600. They could be right. V-twin engine. Could be 800. Could be even smaller. I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to keep it a secret. And I'll tell you later. For the moment, I'm going to ride it. I can tell you this, you've got a presence on the road. It's actually quite a big machine. I feel king of the road. But I want to share this with you. It's definitely not arm wrenching, the power that is. It doesn't exactly take off like a rocket. Maybe that's a clue to work out the overall size of this engine. Stopping power is fairly good, considering it's actually only got one disc on the front. Oh, there's another giveaway as well, because they don't normally put a single disc on a big machine. Any other giveaways I can give you? Well, no, I'm not going to share any more points with you at the moment. All I'm going to say is I feel like it's a nice machine, it rides well, it handles well, but it's not particularly powerful. Right, have you sussed it yet? Have you worked it out, the size? Right, I'm going to give you some more clues now. I tell you what, I hope you're playing this game at home. A lot of effort's gone into this. The first giveaway when I was on the road was indeed the fact that it did have only one disc on the front. Big bikes normally have two. How about this here, back here? These barrels look absolutely massive here with these fins on the V-twin engine. But in actual fact, it's a water-cooled engine. It's got a radiator and coolant in there. So the barrels are really sort of deceiving. They look bigger than they really are. I don't know if you've noticed here, look, Montesa Honda. Montesa and Honda have been associated, they've been linked together producing trials bikes. Well, now they're producing road bikes like this. But Honda make big uns. Montesa are not famous for making big machines. Could be another giveaway. Look at the exhaust system here. It is two exhausts coming off the two barrels, granted, but they only feed then into one silencer. And on big machines, very, very often, there's two silencers, one either side. On this, just the one. Another giveaway. But the real clue is up there on the dashboard, on the clocks, because the speedo only reads up to 80 miles an hour. Now this thing doesn't do 80 miles an hour, it's around 70 on full chat. That's a definite giveaway. How many clues do you want, for goodness sake? Well, I'll tell you what, do you want to know? Do you want to know the answer? Well, I'm not going to tell you. I'll tell you in a minute. Okay, the game's over. I won't keep you in suspenders any longer. Suspense, I do apologise, any longer. I'll tell you, it is indeed a 125. Yep, surprising, isn't it? Because it's a big bike with a little engine. And I can tell you something, if you were riding it, you'd realise that it is only a 125 as well, because it's only got 14 brake horsepower. That is definitely not arm wrenching. And of that 14 brake horsepower, it's got 5 gears to use. And when you're riding along the road, you definitely feel like you need another 4 or 5 gears. Because when you get to 4,000 or 5,000 revs, you've got no more gears left. All you've got is a whole load more revs. And then you still only get to 70 miles an hour. Well, let's be fair, it's exactly what it's meant to be. A 125 machine that keeps you in certain bounds of legal limits for certain people, or because it's such a lovely big machine and it's definitely an eye catcher. Then also there are people out there who want a nice big bike with a big presence but don't want a whole load of power, and it's perfect for the job. Now, without doubt, the best selling point about this bike is its overall size and presence, and a nice big comfy seat. There we have it. Look, it is big, but it's actually quite low. When you sat on it, it's not so bad, and it has actually got a bit of a backrest built in there for comfort. Like most big machines nowadays, you can indeed remove the seat like so, and under here, a bit of room for a lock. We've got the manual and we've got a tool roll, and one would hope you won't have any need for it. Just clip the seat back, which does actually go on and off quite easy. There's some adjustment down here that you can make to what, you might ask. Strange place for an adjuster. Certainly an adjuster that actually works the headlight. That alters the height of the beam on the headlight. Strange place for it, but nonetheless easy to get to. Manual choke, operated by just pulling in and out, simple as that. And up there, tucked away, is a fuel tap. Strange device, I must admit, nowadays, because normally they're automatic. But that fuel tap is a little awkward to use, because if you worked it logically, you're actually turning it off when you turn it on. But what I did was I read the manual, and the manual then told me exactly how to use it. There was no pictures, by the way. That made it a little difficult for someone like me. But when I've got it sussed, job's all right, no problem at all. And you've got a bit of a reserve as well. Talking of fuel, I want to show you the fuel cap up here. I can't quite understand in this world of technology why we've got to have a flipping fuel cap that comes off, and then where do I put it? On the seat? Petrol on the seat? Ooh, no. Silly. Why not just have a flap system? Makes life so much easier. And I must admit, on occasions, this one did prove a little awkward to get on and off. Hey, but that's not life-threatening, is it? But as you can see, it's a lovely machine. It's big. It's got a presence about it, but it's still only a 125 engine. Look at, I mean, if you just compare this now, this size of machine compared to this. This is a Honda VTR 1000cc Firestorm. Next to this, a 125 Varadero. It's amazing. That one could cost you your licence, whereas this one will cost you £3,500, and indeed very likely to retain your licence. That's half the price of that, but still a nice big bike with a presence on the road and limiting yourself down to about 70 mile an hour top speed. If I had the choice of a big bike with a little engine or a big bike with a big engine, I'm afraid the latter. And soon as I've noticed that the keys are in the ignition, oh, it'd be rude not to, wouldn't it? I'll see you later. Here we go now, hang on to your hats. Bye-bye now, bye-bye.
Well, if I can get the Firestorm back from Wayne, I'll tell you all about it in a couple of weeks. Still to come this week, how to soup up your scooter, and Jeff and I look at Moto Guzzi.
So, you know, guys like you have got these fancy super bikes and that lot, you know, and you always put loads of access. Are you listening to me? Hey, dummy. How is it I always end up talking to the dummies, eh? Right, I'll tell you out there. I'm on about the fact that if you've got a modern machine, inevitably you bought some form of bolt and accessory for it. That will be an exhaust cam maybe, a hugger on the back, a different coloured screen on the front, possibly some mini indicators. It's something we all do. You might even have a custom cruiser and you want to buy some more chrome bits and pieces to polish up. Then of course you might have a scooter. And you might say to yourself, what can I put on my scooter? Well, there's a load of things you can do to these things. Even though they're already fairly fancy, they've got some lovely colours and they're all very stylish to start with, you might still want to upgrade it, make something more of it, by putting on a fancy bolt-on accessory like this exhaust cam. So why would you want to put a performance part on a basic scooter? Well, there's a very good reason for it. The truth is, most people who buy the latest scooters, certainly the 50cc moped versions, probably end up buying one on a 3 or 4 year finance plan, just to keep the payments low. The trouble being is, they buy that when they're 16, and at 17 they want to go that bit quicker. Then they want to part exchange it. They go into the shop, they say, how much are you giving me for that, mate? And end up realising that they're actually sat on something that's called negative equity, meaning, very simply, that the part exchange figure is an awful lot less than they already owe. So the next move is very, very simple. Put some bolt-on bits and pieces on that scooter for not a lot of money. Quite easily £100 will do the job, possibly more if you want to go that much quicker. And then having done that, you've got your performance scooter that'll last you another couple of years before you upgrade either to a bigger scooter or possibly a big motorbike. And that's where these bits and pieces come into the equation. We started on exhaust. Why not start further on exhaust with this one, Technigas? That's only one of many, many, many brands that are available. 90% of them do come out of Italy, because that seems to be where all performance exhausts come from. Now I know that if you have a superbike, you might put on an end can, multicolours, multiple shapes and so on. They do increase performance, and that's exactly what these do. Now this particular company here, Gianelli, who produced this can, that's 130 quid's worth, I might point out, whereas the Technigas is only £80 worth, is one of the big boys, and they produce all sorts of performance cans, or exhaust systems you might say, for various different scooters, different brands. There's other makes, Melos is one of them, Lea Vinci is one of them, Arrow's one of them, loads. Not only can you put an exhaust on it, then obviously there's other bits and pieces. Take this for example, carburettor, £60 upwards, buys your carburettor, that increases performance as well. On your carburettor, you can stick one of them, and that looks something for your money, doesn't it? And that's only 15 quid's worth. And this will help the airflow. If you help the airflow in the carburettor and through the engine, and help the airflow out of the carburettor in the way of an exhaust can, then obviously you're going to increase the overall performance of the bike. You make the bike go that bit quicker, you've obviously got to help it stop. Well, you can do that as well, because look at this. You can even buy, for the likes of 115 quid, a fully floating disc. That's a performance brake disc. Stick some decent brake pads in your bike and some brake shoes if it happens to be a drum on the rear, and that'll stop the machine. So you go a bit quicker, around 50-60 mile an hour rather than the restricted 30, and you can stop quicker with some performance brakes. Now that obviously just increases the overall performance of it. The thing is, you need to sort of enter the league of making the bike work better. And that's what you do with things like these. These parts go inside the motor and they help the drive of the engine so that it gives you mid-range power as well as just out and out top speed. There's things like this. This is only 15 quid. This is like a sort of booster thing, and this helps flow petrol through the carburettor quicker and faster. So that again helps with the mid-range power. All sorts of things. You're obviously going to need some advice, aren't you, with this sort of thing? Well, what you do is you visit shops like this. I mean, this is the Scooter Shack in Southport, one of many, many shops that are available for you to go and have a chat with nowadays, who specialise specifically in scooters. They're all over the country. And the great thing about guys like these are experienced on scooters alone rather than motorbikes in general. And that means they can offer you advice, probably fit you a few things, and make your bike or your scooter go that much better. So what we're going to do in the future, we're going to come back to this place and we're going to ride a bike that's been tuned up, and it's a 125 with a power kit on it. Oh, look at that. This must be a remote control version.
Moto Guzzi, now there's a name from the past. In fact, from long ago. Would you believe they made their first bike some 80 years ago, way back in 1921? But the Moto Guzzi story started even before that. It started in 1917, when a guy called Carlo Guzzi met another guy called Giorgio Parodi. They met in the Italian Air Force, and they agreed that after the war, they would start a motorcycle company. There was, in fact, another guy involved with it as well, who was a test pilot during the war, and he was a well-known racer at the time, but unfortunately he came to grief. He was killed in the war, but in his memory they've retained the symbol, which was at the time the symbol of the Italian Air Force, the little eagle there with the wings open, and that symbol lives on today in his memory on all of the Moto Guzzi bikes.
Well, that was quite a history lesson, wasn't it? But very impressive for all that. But whenever I think of Guzzis, I think of V-twins and I think of racing. And way back in 1933, Guzzi made their first V-twin, which was to 500, and it was in line with the frame, very much like a Ducati, not like this one, across the frame. A couple of years later, in their racing heritage, the great Stanley Woods, he raced a Guzzi in the 250 to an Isle of Man TT victory. Stanley Woods was a great bloke, one of the famous Irish racers, and later he rode for Velocet, and he was a friend of my dad's, would you believe? But that's something for another day. But anyway, after then, if we go in leaps and bounds after the war, 1955 was the time that Guzzi developed a fantastic machine, a V8 500. You just think of that, V8 500, each cylinder just 60cc, and it was double overhead cam as well. Absolutely amazing piece of kit. But look, coming up to this one, the Le Mans. That brings us to the present day, but this one's been around for quite a while, and Paul's got some fun memories of this as well.
Well, not actually that particular one, because that was the brand new V11 Le Mans. But way back in the 1970s, when I was a very young lad, very young, and Jeff was probably on about his 18th bike, I used to go to a place in Manchester called Sports Motorcycles, that some of you might remember, long since gone of course, but their pride of place in the middle of the upstairs showroom was a big shiny red 850 Moto Guzzi Le Mans, and I used to climb all over it as a kid and one day dream about maybe owning something like that. Well, that was, as I say, 20 odd years ago, and believe me, they've come a long way since then.
But the big news is Aprilia, those makers of the superb RSV, they've taken over Moto Guzzi. Still in the old factory, but they put a fantastic emphasis on build quality. So they've done lots for the engineering, and also they've paid a lot of attention to the paintwork and the chrome, and you can see it on this. And they've also paid a lot of attention to the various cycle parts. But not only that, they've also introduced a whole range of new models.
You have indeed, and this is one of their new models. This is the California Special Sport, just one of 3 different versions of the California model now available. And there are 2 versions of the V11. There's the V11 Naked and there's the V11 Le Mans, sort of half-fared version. And over the next couple of weeks, we'll be looking at all of them in a lot more detail. But until then, we're off for a little play, and we'll see you next week.